Welcome to the Fear and Greed Daily Interview. I'm Sean Aylmer. Last month, Australia and India signed a major interim free trade deal, cutting tariffs on a range of exports from coal and rare earths to sheep and lobsters. While it's a comprehensive agreement, it's not quite a full free trade deal. Major exports like dairy will have to wait for a future expansion. But with the Indian economy growing quickly in recent years, it's a big step towards diversifying Australia's exports, reducing the reliance on China. It also means a lot of opportunities for local businesses. Sonia Sadiq Gandhi is the founder of the India-Australia Business and Community Alliance, the largest platform connecting business and entrepreneurs between the two countries. And my guest this morning, Sonia, welcome to Fear and Greed.
Thank you for having me, Sean.
So let's first get an idea of the scale of the agreement that the respective governments have made and just how important the economic relationship between Australia and India is.
Look, we've finally broken the jinx, as I say. You know, it's taken us 10 years and rightly, like you said, this is not the full-scale free trade agreement, but of course new beginnings and aspirations, as I put it. And there is, of course, a raft of measures that signify a new geo-economic and strategic ambitious plan. The agreement in itself has got, of course, a lot of benefits for both sides, but there's been a real holistic approach to build the Australia-India bilateral story, I would say, because at the political level, it's evident that with the announcement of the annual summits that you saw pre the trade agreement with the heads of governments from Modi and, of course, Morrison's end, making Australia only the third country which India will hold institutionalized review of relations. But at the economic level, when DFAT revised the India economic strategy to 2035, which was led by Peter Varghese, that really chalked out a post-COVID bilateral economic engagement roadmap. And that was critical in seeing this agreement come to light. And that, of course, focuses on the investment side and strengthening the linkages with India and Australia with key policy, financial institutions, and enhanced business engagement. So where we are at now is a key player in terms of services, but also our people-to-people links in terms of visas. So I think the soft diplomacy or soft power is also something to note within this free trade agreement that we see come to light.
Okay, Sonia, so it sort of interests me that India and Australia have so many common interests in many ways, and it has always been a sort of a hard slog to get some sort of trade deal between the two economies. Australia has done things with, obviously, the UK more recently, the US, different European economies in part, certainly Asian economies, but India's always just almost been too hard. Is it the fact that that's a problem on Australia's side or India's side? Have we overcome that mountain? And given the size of the Indian economy, or certainly the population and the speed at which the economy is growing, surely Australia should be jumping at the opportunity.
You're right, Sean. It has been seen as it's in the too hard basket, but I think it's also because there's various factors that come into play here. I think the thing to note is the diaspora at the moment, which really highlights the two-way journey has picked up here in Australia, and Australians, as we see, are looking to India because of the perceptions that have been broken down to do business with India favorably by the diaspora. And that's what the IABCA Alliance does pretty much in terms of bringing the rich contributions, skills, network, talent, and capabilities of the Australian Indian diaspora community together under one banner and showcasing the new India through their eyes.
Okay, so I'm going to jump in. You said IABCA, which is the India-Australia Business and Community Alliance. That's the acronym, is that right?
It is, absolutely. It is, yes.
That's what you founded. And so, yes, so keep going. What does the Alliance do? What are you aiming to do?
So the Alliance it brings together organisations such as Asia Link, Australia-India Business Council, Export Council, all the different organisations that are working towards one common goal, which is how do we do more business with India and vice versa? How do Indian investors, when they're thinking investing, the first thing they need to think is, yes, there is US, which they most likely think of, but the second one is Australia. And a recent research that was done by India's top think tank, the ORF Foreign Policy think tank, said that Indians trust Australia as a country, they put it second after the US. So 68% trust in terms of, and for the US, it sits at about 78%. So that was a very recent shift in 2021 end that we saw when the research piece was done. So I think the alliance in itself tells that story of leveraging these diaspora capabilities and ensuring that the New Age India story is told through their eyes to your standard Australian exporter. And the interesting part here, Sean, is someone like myself who came to Australia as an international student is now your classic Australian exporter. I've got a services business here in Australia, and now I'm looking to India to take this business there. So that story, that trend is going to grow continuously, and we see that trend now taking place.
Stay with me, Sonia. We'll be back in a minute. My guest this morning is Sonia Sadiq Gandhi, founder of the India-Australia Business and Community Alliance. Okay, so is it mostly services businesses from Australia to India? I must say, when I think the other way, I think education and technology, India to Australia. But what are the sectors that we're talking about?
I think the tariffs on, of course, wine, with a minimum import price of, I think it's $5 per bottle to be reduced from 150% to 100%. So that's a huge shift, 50% over 10 years. Sheep and meat tariffs, like you said earlier, 30% to be eliminated. Wool, 2.5% tariffs to be eliminated. Also, avocados, onions, just the whole broader lentils, cherries, pistachios, 30% tariffs over 7 years to be eliminated. I know that dairy and beef have been excluded from the deal, but both countries, going back to the services point, facilitate the recognition of professional qualifications. Now, that's a very, very big one.
Yep.
That's a major one when it comes to licensing and registration procedures between professional services bodies in both countries, because that's always been, a stickler in the mix. So that's a big one. But also the new access for young people from India to participate in working holidays, with places set for 1,000 a year, Sean. That's massive,
Yeah.
And now we're talking a complete two-way conversation, right? And Indian students with bachelor's degree, I think first-class honours, can actually stay in Australia for 3 years after their graduation rather than from the current one, which I think is 2 years and only applies to STEM at the moment.
Right.
So that's a big game changer as well. And lots of MOUs in the agricultural sectoral space as well. And of course, the stronger partnerships, as we always had within the critical minerals and education, like you said. And tourism is a big one, too, that we're looking at. So I think there'll be a lot of work to be done in that tourism sort of space going forward. Of course, the pandemic.
Is there much tourism? I mean, we all talk about going to India. I mean, I've been to India and it's the most colourful country in the world, full stop, right? There is nothing more colourful than spending a day in an Indian city. And it's not the landscape, it's the people. It's quite incredible. But is that tourism picking up?
It is. And look, when I say, anyone says to me, we're going to India, where should we go? I always say treat each state, our 29 states, as different countries, because the diversity that comes out from a cuisine, couture, cultural point of view and language is completely different. And when you travel, the same hat needs to be worn when you do business with India, because each state is a different country. And yes, tourism is definitely increasing. In fact, the IABCAs, the India-Australia Business and Community Alliances, for the first time, when it turns 10 in 2023, is taking a whole group to India as part of the Jaipur Literature Festival, which is the world's largest literature festival. And about 200 Aussies have been going to the JLF for the past, 15 years. And we're just going to add on a bit more of a business focus to that group so that we can travel and showcase, that rich diversity and have, basically be in an Indian palace, enjoying the literature side of things and also absorbing the beauty and diversity that India brings.
So it brings the question, if I'm a business person and I want to think about accessing India and what sort of opportunities are there, what's the first step? I suppose go to the India-Australia Business and Community Alliance is probably a good step. Is it about that networking? Is that where people should start?
I think reaching out to us and then sort of, obviously the federal agencies like your Austrade, AIBX and Investment New South Wales and so forth are your key contacts. But we have got the key connections in how we could understand the sector, understand the outcome, and then direct you. So we're not actually a business council. We are a platform that drives that business pace. So yes, to answer your question directly, connect with us, connect with the IABCAs, and then we sort of connect you with the right stakeholders, because there's so many different avenues when it comes to India and people have so many different questions.
Yeah.
Right. Just this interview right now, we're talking about tourism, education, services, culture, food. I mean, it is a whole gamut. So from an alliance point of view, we would then direct the inquiry to the right people. And sometimes it's really about curiosity. People are curious about India and really
Yeah.
wanting to know a bit more about the texture, about the relationships, and how, we can, in the next 2 to 5 years, do business with India. But right now, the platform, the alliance platform in itself, is focused on the diaspora, which added real texture and making the relationships less transactional. Because for Australian corporations, it's important to understand the business culture, and the business diaspora is offering that. So our connect with these true to nation ambassadors helps exporters understand India through their eyes.
Sonia, thank you for talking to Fear and Greed.
Thank you so much for having me, Sean.
That was Sonia Sadiq Gandhi, founder of the India-Australia Business and Community Alliance. This is the Fear and Greed Daily Interview. Join us every morning for the full episode of Fear and Greed, Australia's most popular business podcast. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your day.